I don't know. It has to be red. There it goes. All right, gotcha. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Good afternoon, committee members and other parties of interest. This is the Evaluation Committee meeting and possible scoring for request for proposals RFP-25-00151 for the external auditing services for management and budget, which the clerk's office also helps to monitor and go through the process. This is being held by means of communications media technology. Provisions have been made for members of the public desiring to have access to view the meeting. Public attendees are asked to remain on mute and cameras off. For the record, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be available as soon as possible after the meeting has ended. Please be advised that the cone of silence is still in effect and shall end the earlier of 5 business days after the county posts its notice of intent to award any contracts associated with the solicitation or on the date the procurement solicitation is canceled by the county. All questions, comments, and concerns must be directed to my attention and my attention only. As a matter of housekeeping for the technical advisors and project observers that are in attendance via communications media technology, please remain on mute unless you are speaking and turn your cameras off if needed. If you called in, please do not put the call on hold. My name is Sakina Ford and I'm the chief buyer for the project. And again, this is being recorded for the public and has been publicly noticed. At this time, I'm going to ask each of the committee members for the selection committee to introduce themselves for the record. Let me go ahead and start over here with Jim. And you're going to want to, sorry, I should have said that. Make sure you're turning your microphones on when you speak so everybody can hear you. Thank you.
I guess red means on.
Yes.
Jim Ingram, City of Temple Terrace, Finance Director.
David Byrne, Vice President of Finance at the Tampa Sports Authority.
Mary Wood, representing Hillsborough County Tax Collector.
John Alessi, representing Hillsborough County Property Appraiser and Director of Finance.
Diane Reichert, City of Plant City Chief Financial Officer.
Bob Henriquez, Hillsborough County Property Appraiser.
Craig Latimer, Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections.
Ajay Gajar, Finance Director, Clerk of Circuit Court.
Hi, this is Justina Swabaki, the Finance Director for the Hillsborough County Tax Collector's Office.
We also have some online that I would like to have go ahead and introduce themselves, please. First, procurement staff and then the other advisors.
Christy Alessino, Procurement Operations Coordinator.
And our advisors online.
Deborah Benavidez, Technical Advisor, Board of County Commissioners.
Christy Perlow Jones, Supervisor of Elections, Director of Administration.
Bill Spinelli, Sheriff's Office, CFO.
I believe that was everybody. Let me see if I can turn that volume up real quick. So just for the record to confirm, as far as the selection committee members, we have David Byrne for the BOCC, Jim Ingram for the clerk, Bob Henriquez for property appraiser, Diana Reichert for the sheriff's office, Craig Latimer for the supervisor of elections, and Mary Wood for the tax collector's office. All others in the room besides myself are also here as advisory to the committee. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, so for the record, we did receive 6 proposals. Those proposals were from Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, LLC, Forvis Mazars, LLP, CLA, Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, RSM US, LLP, Crow, LLP, and Cherry Beckert, LLP. Just as a reminder, your technical advisors are here to support you and answer questions as needed, but they will not be a part of any of your scoring as a committee. Following up on a couple of things from our introductory meeting. There was a question about the chair. Procurement did research the statute, and there is no requirement on who must serve as the chair for the county or elected officers. We did have two that mentioned serving as chair in that introductory meeting, and that was Diane Reichert and David Byrne. Do we have anyone else that is interested or wants to volunteer to be the chair for the committee?
If I'm not sure what extra role the committee chairperson would have. If it is something a bit more time intensive, I find out tomorrow if my wife has to go in for surgery, so I will still be able to continue the tasks here, but if any additional duties or anything like that, I would try to back away from, at least for the time being, and until I
Okay.
figure out what's going on.
So we have Diane for the chair. Did we have anybody else that wanted to put their name in? Was the committee okay to go with Diane being the chair? Everybody agrees? Okay, perfect. We will go ahead and have Diane as the chair. All right, the other question that I wanted to follow up on was the question about the criteria. And we again researched the statute, and all the requirements for criteria from the statute were already included in the criteria set forth in the RFP. And then to clarify the ranking and recommendation requirements for the selection committee, you are tasked with scoring and ranking all proposals and then recommending the top 3 ranked firms to the Board of County Commissioners. And then the evaluation committee may score and rank today. You may select and request oral presentations if you feel like you don't have all your questions answered today. If you deem that necessary or it would be helpful to your process, that is also an option. I just want to make sure you don't feel like you have to be in a hurry. That's what we're here to do. And if we need to schedule extra meetings, we can do that. But just wanted to give you that as an option. The committee is going to evaluate, discuss, and score the 6 responses based on the criteria that was provided in the solicitation documents as it correlates to the requirements and the submissions that they presented. As a reminder, the responses again were to be scored based on the following criteria. Number 1 was approach and methodology. Number 2 was proposers' organization experience with local governments of similar types, structure, and scale, i.e. the enterprise funds, programs, and operations, funding sources, and Florida local governments. Proposers' organization experience with audits involving similar ERP systems and other complex accounting systems was number 3. Number 4 is the proposer's organization, general qualifications, and relevant experience. The number 5 would be the cost total. Number 6 is the DWBE bonus points. And number 7 would be the incumbent staff deduction. If the committee would like to hear from the technical advisors or the advisors have information they feel is important for discussion, that can be shared and requested and discussed within each of the categories as you're going through those categories. We will hear from Ajay Gajar on the reference checks that he did. That will be a part of category 4. And then he will also present for the incumbent staff deductions after the committee has finalized all the other scoring for categories 1 through 4. Again, don't feel rushed. The decision or final scoring and ranking does not have to be made today. I am going to go ahead and hand this over to our chairperson, which is now Diane Reichert, who will lead the discussions for evaluation and scoring. After each category is discussed, we want to make sure we're stating any final consensus scoring agreed upon, and I will record that in the spreadsheet. After the conclusion of the scoring, we can verify those scores with the committee and provide all final scorings if we reach that point today. And with that said, I'll go ahead and let Diane take the reins.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for participating.
Don't forget your microphone. Make sure you are in front of it so we can hear.
I'm just not loud enough, I guess. Welcome, and thank you all for participating in this as well. So I've come today with my scoring done, but I'm here to help you guys however you want to deliberate through this process. We can discuss each and every one and each and every group. We can discuss the group down the way. I don't know if anybody came with a predefined method of how they want to approach this committee meeting. So I'm happy to hear from you all first, and then we can go from there.
My initial thought was just to, since we've all read through this, but obviously it's voluminous, so for us to maybe just have a quick discussion on each of the firms to just see highlights or lowlights, depending on how you read it, just to make sure we're all on the same page. If there was any aha moments for any of us, that way we can all be on the same page with it.
Would you like to do that before we hear from Ajay, or would you like for Ajay to go over his section first?
Why don't we have Ajay go over it first?
He did an
'cause
extensive study on this.
yeah, it may actually mark off a lot of the comments that
We're going to have anyway. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did notice is there's a couple yellows in here. I'm anxious to hear, because there was one of them that was counties, but yet you have it yellowed. So I'm anxious to hear about that.
Okay. All right. So the
As
best.
detailed or as short as you need to do it. So
All right. So I've handed this out. I think I gave it to everyone. The best way to use this is to put 1, 2, 3, 4 in one pile and 5, 6, 7, 8 in another pile, and then look at them across, take one category, approach and methodology, and look at it across. So generally, all CPA firms have to follow professional standards. They have to follow auditing standards. They have to follow the Yellow Book. So the challenge is how to distinguish these CPA firms from each other, since they're all supposed to do quality work and follow the standards. So, so I tried to identify the risks in each category, like approach and methodology. What are the risks involved? And some of the risks would be, if we go to the top line, if they have offices in Tampa, Hillsborough County, or nearby, that's one criteria. The second item is, how many hours did they plan to have this audit involve? And if the audit hours are too low, then there's the risk that they could say, well, we can't do the work. Now we want a modification of the contract. We want more money. And this is supposed to be a fixed price contract. So if they then say, oh, they get the bid or they get the contract, and then they say they can't do it, that would be a problem for us. Also, it looks bad in the bond market if we have to change our auditor in the middle of the contract. So we want a firm that can handle the work. Next category is if the auditor doesn't meet audit deadlines. So that was analyzed. The other was, and for meeting deadlines, I looked at the completion date for the annual comprehensive financial report, the completion date for the sheriff, which is an example constitutional officer, and the completion date for the single audit schedules, and so on. And the final thing was the transition. If they mentioned the transition from the previous auditor to the new auditor, that information was shown there. So now that we've identified the risk, should we go across and look at the CPA firms?
I don't think you need to discuss each one. Maybe the risks are highlighted there.
Yes.
Whatever you all want to hear. Do you want to hear detail more, or?
Sorry, you're just going to want to have to make sure you speak up a little bit more because we're having a hard time
Okay.
keeping you on. There you
Go
go.
ahead.
I have a question. Ajay, why did Cars and Riggs, was there any reason for them not meeting the deadlines?
What I did was there, if they mentioned that they audited a government, and if that government was comparable in size to Hillsborough County, I put them here and then looked up when they completed their audit. What I tried to do was pick the larger governments that were either counties or cities and so on. And then I looked up when they completed their audits, looked at the Florida Auditor General website just to see when they completed it. That's how I got this information. Did I answer? Yeah, okay.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions on page 1? All the way across? I was pleased to see that you had said 38, 4,100 and 3,700 hours was about reasonable for completing your audit. And that's what I had deduced from looking at it, not knowing much about the county, but that was a good to see that on here. Okay, you want to flip to page 2 then?
Okay, so looking at page 2 and 6 together, this is the experience with similar local governments category. Tried to identify the larger governments that they audited, so that we could see if they could handle Hillsborough County. Separated the counties from cities and schools, so that we can distinguish between county and city. Had a category for single audit experience. And that's how this was done. And you may wonder, why are some things in yellow, some are green? The green things are counties or governments. If that CPA firm has experience with governments of Hillsborough County size, then they're green. If they have experience with, let's say, smaller governments, then it's yellow. Pinellas is kind of a hybrid. It's Pinellas County's revenue is 1.9 billion. So it's kind of in between. It's higher than some of the smaller ones, but not as large as Hillsborough, which is 3.5 billion in revenue.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Sarasota County, Pasco County, and Manatee County are smaller counties
Yes.
than what Hillsborough is and would not be as comparable, even though they've done the county work, the amount of revenue. Then the other question I have is, why is Pinellas and Sarasota in so many of the boxes? Have they just been changing auditors at Pinellas?
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, so Pinellas County was with a variety of different firms. They were with RSM before 2019. Then they went to Crow in fiscal year 22. And I believe they're with Forvis
Okay.
now.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
Did the timing or how long ago they last did an audit with these agencies come into play? By the way, thank you for that. This is really good, because I was trying to go and figure this stuff out. So your color coding is really good. I appreciate it. But I was struggling with, some of them are current and some seem to have stronger representation more recently, and others it was harder to tell at what time or how long ago those audits took place.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I tried to identify if their reference was from the past. For example, Crow did Broward County before 2019. So if they have more relevant experience sooner rather than from the past, then it's a better reference. So yes, having the most recent experience would be preferred.
One other question too. I tried to look up the size of these counties. Granted, I didn't look up Pinellas because I thought Pinellas was more on par with Hillsborough, but I see you have Pasco and Green. Is Pasco County larger in scope size than Pinellas as far as?
Well, no, I had it green because they had Orange County and Hillsborough County.
Okay.
For Cherry Beckert, let's say.
Okay, and I I understand.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
When, for Cherry Becker, when was the Hillsborough County work?
It was 2018.
Oh, okay.
It was the contract prior to the current.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Anything else on this page? Anything else on pages 2 and 6?
Well, I could go into the experience with ERP systems. Okay. So we have Oracle, we had Oracle EBS, now we have Oracle Cloud. In both instances, it is good if the auditor has experience with Oracle. It does look like all of them have some experience with Oracle.
Get that from asking them, or did you find that in all the RFPs? It was hard to find them. Some of them didn't easily answer the question.
Right,
So,
yes.
Okay. Move on to the next page. Any more questions? Okay.
Okay, so the next set is page 3 and page 7. And this is general qualifications and relevant experience. First line is if they have experience with the GASB. This line is really a plus. They all would have knowledge of GASB, but if they have a person working there, then they would. It's like they get a bonus for that. So next is the location of the signing partners. In some cases, the partner may be far away. So it's convenient if the partner is located in Florida or located even in Tampa or Hillsborough County. That's the preference. So that's why some have it green for they have signing partners that are close by. The next category, yes.
Time out, one more question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Andre. As far as with the partners being not local, have you found where basically, and you and I have spoken about this prior in the other audit, basically, are you finding that we're getting some advisement locally and then we're getting a different advisement from the partners that's coming down, and also as far as with the procedures?
Yes. Yes. For example, our current auditor, they have the management staff, manager level staff here. They have the partner in Connecticut, and then they have a national office that you could say essentially supervises the partner level. Yeah. So yes, having partners in the local area who can make decisions is a good thing.
Thank you.
How often do you see the partners on the audit engagement? Because my working with the partners is limited. I'm mostly working with the senior managers, and I maybe see them once or twice during the whole. That's why I wondered why that was important.
Yes, you're right. Most of the interaction is with the management auditor, the senior manager or manager. The reason for talking about the partner is because the partner is supposed to be the one making the final decision on issues. Then the next item is responsiveness. The idea was to, from the reference checks, check how responsive the auditors are. We had our evaluation committee took the task of calling references. We got references from all for For Carr, Riggs, Ingram, there were two instances we reached out to them, and in one case, Sarasota County said that that Carr, CRI, was the auditor. They performed the contract in accordance with the contract. Basically, they were in a solicitation process, so they didn't want to talk about it. And the other reference didn't call back. And then the final is peer review.
Jake,
Yes.
back up one if you would on location assigning partners. Crow LLP has nothing there.
Yes. Yes. So, yes, this is an oversight. Crow has, trying to think. I'll get that.
Yeah, we can come back to it.
I had another question
Yes.
as well.
Mhm.
So with Carr, Riggs, Ingram, you have, so we didn't get references back.
Mhm.
On the, in the other cases, you have basically, you speak to the responsiveness. We just don't know because we didn't hear back from
Mhm.
references. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily not responsive, correct? Because you have a caution here. And then you say that they're in the process of doing similarly an RFP for audit in Sarasota, but Carr's been doing it for the last 5 years. It looks like correct.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and 2 of those years they extended the existing contract. But was there any sense that they were going through it just simply because it's been 5 years, it's time to, put it back out for bid? Or was there any sense that they were disappointed in the performance? I mean, it said they performed the contract, but that.
Yeah, don't know. They did perform their entire contract plus the extension allowed. So they did perform as they were probably required to perform. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, would that really warrant caution other than we don't know, but it shouldn't necessarily be a negative because we don't know, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Mhm.
Anything else on this page?
Would it make more sense for that one to just be not shaded as it's not conclusive?
Yes, yes. So just plain without yellow. I go over to the next item. Okay, for the cost item, procurement is going to calculate that and rank the scoring of it. But I did notice that for Crow, this is supposed to be a fixed price contract, but Crow says that if you have more single audit programs and projects, the additional cost is $17,000 to $22,000 each. At Hillsborough County in the last 2 years, 1 year we would have had like 2 extra. The other year would have had like 10 extra. So it's really a case where with Crow, the cost could be a lot higher than what they proposed, the dollar amount of. And procurement will be also doing the DMDWBE bonus points. The incumbent deduction, the only one that had that would be RSM as the incumbent. No one else has staff that was there the past 5 years.
Jay, I'll have to find it. I know one of the firms that wasn't the incumbent listed Hillsborough County in their listing. I'll go through my notes and find it. I just wanted to And potentially it's past that window, but I could have sworn it said it was within 2 years of that time. So I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay.
Let me find my notes before I put anything on record.
Okay.
So.
Jay,
Yes.
this is Christy. I just wanted to answer the question that Crow, the partners are in Dallas.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll enter that in the chart.
Thank you. Whether this is for Ajay or for procurement, on the last one that says review of deviations, under Cherry Beckert, it says engagement letters cannot add contract terms or additional fees not in the contract. Is that going to be a sticking point that can't be negotiated, or?
I believe we can put that in the contract.
There is room for negotiations in the contract. What may or may not be able to be negotiated would depend on those negotiations and the attorneys involved.
So that'll have no bearing on our ranking. It's not like we have to kick them out because of that comment.
Right.
Okay.
The deviations that pertain to your actual criteria would be the ones that you would want to take into consideration here.
Okay. Any other comments, Ajay?
No.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. I know it's considered unfavorable to have the incumbent considered again. Is that because you would like to see change, or is it, obviously it's not past performance, so what's the reasoning behind the unfavorable?
Well, the last RFP that we did, we had a similar staff deduction for Cherry Beckert. They got negative points as the incumbent for having, so it's like we're doing the same thing for RSM, 5 point whatever the deduction is for them being the incumbent. But from the auditing viewpoint, there are pluses and minuses in continuing on with the auditor. The plus is they know what you're doing, so maybe they're more efficient. The plus for having a new firm is you get a new set of eyes looking at your whole government, so that's also good. So either way, it's okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ajay, I found the reference I'm talking about. It's unfortunately they renumber every packet, so it's a little tough to show you. I'll just walk it over and show you.
Can you tell us what?
Yeah, I just don't know what packet this is because everything has the same. It is the one that inside of the packet has kind of.
What's the firm? What's the name of the firm?
Cherry, I'm sorry.
Cherry Beckert?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And page 14, there's a section where they list Florida governmental clients. And it says in the last 2 years, we have provided, and then they provide the listing. And one of the highlighted in there is Hillsborough County. And that may not be the case. I just wanted to, if that's not the case, I want to.
So what was the first? You said in 2 years they had something in the past?
In just the last 2 years, we have proudly provided a wide range of assurance and advisory service for the following Florida public sector organizations. And one of them is Hillsborough County, and it's highlighted.
Yes, so Cherry Beckert was contracted with to do the audit of the transportation surtax. That was that extra
Yes.
sales tax.
Yes, okay.
That was required to be audited. So it wasn't really a county audit. It was
More consultative.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I underlined that it says a wide range of assurance and advisory services.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily audits. 'Cause it does look like an impressive list, but they, I don't think these were all necessarily audits.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Ajay, it was said before, and I'll say it too, this is extremely helpful, the way you broke this out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if that's all, then the next thing I need clarification on, you mentioned earlier, I think that we could go across to each one of the criteria across, but I was wondering, should we approach it as discussing each firm? Is there a certain way we have to do it?
No.
Okay, does anybody have a preference? Would you like to we could do it by process of elimination too, and let's discuss the top 3 firms that we all have in our heads, because we might all have the same top 3 without throwing it on the table. We could just have general discussion first. We could throw in our rankings first. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can approach this. So I think the best thing to do is if anybody has specific comments about the positives they've seen on a couple of firms, maybe that's what we should do first. But unless.
You will still need to provide scores
Yes,
based on the criteria and the points available for each criteria,
okay.
as part of that ranking the top.
So if we were going to provide scores, and right now I was going to tell you, how would we do that just verbally? Would we do it verbally, or would we turn in our sheets and let you?
You can do that verbally.
Okay.
You can each discuss where you came in at,
Okay,
and then by consensus, make a decision, or we can take everybody's scores and I can calculate an average from here. It's
Okay.
really up to the committee how you guys want to go about that.
It would be best to come to consensus on each category, what the scores are.
okay. All right. Okay, so if we have approach and methodology, what do we have for top scores? Who's the top ranked?
So you're going to want to discuss each proposer and score each proposer. You can either go across the category for each proposer, or you can go for each proposer down the categories. But you will need to discuss and score all 6.
Okay, I've just never done it as a group before. I've always
Gotcha.
just turned in my sheet. Procurement worked their magic, and we talked about it if we had a problem, but other than that, I've never. So, I mean, if we're going straight down, I've got the top ranked for approach and methodology for me, although he mentioned that this might be a caution, that Ajay mentioned that there might be a caution on Clifton, Larson, Allen, because they've not done large counties before, but I saw that they had good county experience. And I have Cherry Beckert, and I have Forvis Mazers, but then as he's presented the information, they may fall out as well. And then the others I have are lower than that. So I don't know what you all want to give your top 3 or go that way. Does that work? Or do I need to tell you exactly 25, 24, 17, 16?
Yeah, we'll need the scores from each.
I mean, I have them here, but
Okay.
you want me to tell them to you out loud now?
Yeah, you can do that, and you guys can discuss, and everybody can come to a consensus on what you believe the points should be by category for
All right,
each.
I'll get it started then. 16, 24, 25, going across, you got it? 16 for car, 24 for
Are
Ford.
you talking approach and methodology?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
16, 24, 25 for Clifton, 17 for RSM, 19 for Crow, and 24 for Cherry. Okay,
I'm sorry.
I got 16, 24, 25. What were the RSM and Crow?
17, 19. Oh, yes. I have them in that order, but I think they're reversed in one of the other pages.
I have, are we going?
Go ahead.
Okay. I have some similar scores. I have Cherry Beckert, Clifton Larson at 25, Crow 23. I'm sorry, I'm not doing this in the, I should do it in the, let me.
It's okay, as long as you tell me which firm.
Okay. Cars, Riggs, and Ingram I had at 20. That was generous. They lost me in the first sentence with their bad grammar, but they had good graphics, but I thought it was poorly written. Forvis Mazers, I have at 24. They lacked graphics, but I did put a plus here, and I know it's down here further about just the transitioning from another firm. I thought was, and they seem to be the only one that highlighted that. Crow, again, I have at 23. And then again, Clifton Larson, 25. Cherry Beckert, 25. I thought they were very solid. RSM, I thought there was some lack of depth personally in some of the areas, so I gave them 21. Am I missing anybody?
No, you hit them all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You ready? Bob's gonna go.
Okay, I had car raised at 21. Didn't really notice their grammar. Orvis I had at 20. I had CLA 21, RSM 20. Crow 19. I had Cherry Beckert at 23. I thought they did a nice job.
Absolutely. Who's next? There we go.
All right, CRI, I had at 18. Forvis, I had at 24. CLA, I had at 20. RSM, I had at 18. Crow, I had at 15. And Cherry, I had at 23.
Mary?
So I had Car Rigs at 19, Forvis at 17, CLA at 25, RSM at 24, Crow at 19, and Cherry at 18.
You don't vote. You're just an advisor. You're just an advisor, or you go?
No,
Go ahead. Your turn.
I had Car Riggs Ingram at 20, Forvis at 24, Clifton Larson at 24, RSM at 17, Crow at 19, Cherry Beckert 25.
Can you repeat the first one again?
We got any more? Any more to vote?
No, that was everybody.
That was it. That's what I thought. So now what do we do? Are you gonna work your magic math over there and tell us who's?
You guys can discuss your pros and cons, however you want to do that, and then maybe come up with your consensus score between all of the scoring as it was presented.
So the one that I heard, I didn't write them all down, but the one that I heard of Forvis Mazers was up and down. RSM, Crow, and Carr seem to be pretty similar across the board. We have to give numbers to them as well, just you don't.
You'll find a consensus for each.
Okay, for each one.
If you need me to repeat any and go through them and come up with a final score, I can give them to you.
I don't know any other way. I'm a math person, okay? So I add up the numbers, divide by 5, and to me, that gives me the top ranking. But if you guys want to tell me who you think we should give 25, 24, 23, we can go from there. I heard Cherry Beckert was high. Clifton Larson was up and down. And then we had one Cherry Beckert that was low. So if we gave, I don't know, Cherry 24 CLA 23, Forbes 22, Crow 19, RSM 18, and Car Rigs 18. I don't know. That's off the top of my head without doing the math. So what do you guys think? Did you hear what I said, or should I repeat it? Tell me what needs to change or what you want to discuss about that.
Did you say?
Okay, so Car Rigs 18, Forbes 22, CLA 23, RSM 18, Crow 19, and Cherry Becker 24. Did I hear from you guys that that was kind of your consensus? If not, tell me which one should change.
So would you like me to do the math?
I'm happy for someone to do the math.
Yeah, no,
I have
It-
it almost done, and then I can tell you
Okay.
what they all added up,
Okay,
and then you can decide.
and we'll see if this was
It-
my
it
budget
really
brain or
does-
my accounting brain.
it really does need to be cut by consensus by the committee. So just to give you that as a guide.
Okay,
With your discussions, you can maybe sway up or down depending on how everybody feels about that. But it's not really the averages. It's what you guys come to consensus on, what you believe is appropriate.
okay. Go ahead, Dave.
I had one question as I was looking through CRIs. They gave a heading for one employee, but the experience for another. And I have to look back and see how critical this person was, but there was a resume for someone named Kayla, but or a heading for someone named Kayla, but the experience was for someone named Christine on a CRI. And see if I can figure out how critical Christine or Kayla is to the.
I don't know.
I was just saying it out loud. If someone else has their thoughts together better on it and saw that as well.
I don't know if I saw that specific one, but I was with Jim on the fact that there seemed to be a lot of errors throughout the document. So that caused a lot of angst.
Yeah, here. So
Right.
Kayla Spellman, Senior Manager Kayla will work with Tim Gruder to direct and supervise any staff executing day-to-day engagements. And the experience, Christine is a certified public accountant, has 17 years of government audit experience. So it is, let me look at the actual. And there's no other resume for a Kayla or a Christine to match back to.
Just to give you a little bit of direction on that, that would be more suited in the organizational general qualifications and relevant experience. We're currently evaluating on the criteria one, which is the approach and methodology.
Okay.
Just to give you that guidance.
If this is one of the key people in terms of implementing approach and methodology, then that's to me critical.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so I added up all of your scores in each column, got a total, and then divided by 6, because there's 6 of you to get an average. So the first one is a 19, which is cars. Forbes is 22.2. Clifton Larson Allen is 23.3. RSM 19.5. Crow 19. Cherry Becker 23.
My budget brain's not too bad.
Right.
What do you think?
Well,
Just remember, we're not scoring by the average, we're scoring by consensus.
Right, I know.
Okay.
that's where I come in as the appraiser in the room. So, Mary, you had Cherry Becker at 16.
I think it was her that had him low.
Somebody had 16. I'm sorry. Maybe I thought it was Mary.
Jasmine, I think.
What
Yeah.
did you have? 18.
Oh, okay.
And somebody had 16? Is that, or,
No,
no, so it was 18.
18, okay.
It just, because that was sort of the outlier of all, everybody else seemed to have it higher. Is there reasoning for that? I mean, we just don't like cherries. All strawberries in Flint City.
Strawberries are wonderful.
Actually, should have been 20.
20, okay.
Ah.
Based on, sorry. I'm gonna change that a little bit.
Redo the math.
So that'd probably bring it up to the 24. So the only question from same 23. Okay, so are you guys okay with giving a 23 to Cherry and a 23 to CLA and a 22 to Forbes? And then 19 to the other three. Forbes was 22. Do you think 22 is too high or do you like 22? Do you want to negotiate? You know, we have 4 other categories to go through. So, yes,
For Forbes, the fact that they estimated 3,000 hours, they clearly don't have enough hours to do the job. So their score shouldn't really be that high. That's just my view.
okay.
Yeah, I have to admit, everything else to me falls right in line with our scoring. I have Larson and Beckett tied and Forbes Marvis, Forbes Mazars 1 point off. However, I did not take in consideration, I did not see I work for the city of Temple Terrace. 3,000 hours sounds probably good to me, but you would know better. If that's something that is just non-negotiable. Other than that, I mean, I thought it was well-written and it was strongly presented.
Yeah, their strength to me was actually going through the different units and providing detailed plans as opposed to, it did seem like a tailored response to me. It wasn't graphically stunning, as I think someone else alluded to, but I did enjoy the content of it, and I felt like they did address the questions. Now, to your point, if the hours are substantially off, is that going to be a staffing and execution issue, or is that going to be a pricing issue, or a large combination of all the above?
And do you fear that they'll come back with a change order because it's going to take them more hours?
Yes. For example, RSM for fiscal year 23 took 4,200 hours. Cherry Beckert, when they were there, they took 3,675 hours. So 3,000 really is not enough.
Jay, that information was publicly available for the number of hours that the other firms had?
They all CPA firms provided their estimate of how many hours it would take for them to do it. The hours that the RSM hours and the Cherry Beckert hours, I had that. It wasn't in their proposal.
Okay, the question was, would they have had any way to be able to get that information for the number of hours that Cherry Beckert and RSM had given before?
They could have asked that in the time period that was available for asking questions. I don't think they asked.
Answered, thank you.
I actually scored them the lowest just for that reason. So I'd be concerned if we have them in the top.
So would you be okay if we made them a 20 instead of a 22? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to bring up that if there are concerns with that can be something that can be requested in interviews if you feel like you need to get clarification on their justification behind their estimated hours.
Okay.
So that is something to consider.
Maybe they just think they're really efficient.
Well, I thought about that too, you know.
What was your suggestion for Forbes?
20 was my next suggestion. Instead of a 22, could we go to a 20?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So we have 23 for Cherry Beckert, 23 for CLA, 20 for Forvis. Is everybody good with 19, 19, and 19 for the other three, or is there somebody that you want to come down below 19?
Could you read them across again? I apologize.
Well, I do things funny. I didn't go straight across.
Okay, that's why.
So- I went from top to bottom.
Okay.
So Carr is 19, Forvis is 20, CLA 23, RSM 19, Crow 19, and Cherry Beckard 23. We could argue that from some comments we've heard that Carr should be lower than 19. So does anybody want to put that argument up that we should make Carr lower than 19? Or are you comfortable with those numbers?
I'm comfortable with 19, but I would put them, I feel like they should be at least 1 point lower than the others, simply because to me it was sloppy. And I don't know, let me bring up something. I don't know if this is a concern or not. One of the things I looked at was how they address technology and the use of AI. Some of them addressed it specifically, some of them didn't. And I don't know if I'm just bringing it up just in case anyone else has that thought. I don't know if it's a big thing or not. They did not, as far as I could tell, there wasn't much mention of, there was no mention of AI. But just on the sloppiness by itself, to me, that's a big, they
Okay.
didn't put the effort to edit, to check. I mean, in the first paragraph, 2 sentences, there's terrible errors.
Does anybody want to recommend we make them an 18 or should we leave them at 19? Other than Jim, you're fine with 18? Or everybody fine with 19? 19 or 18? What do you think? Okay, let's put them at 18.
I scored him 18, so be consistent.
I'll read it one more time and tell me if this is our final, okay? Carr Riggs, 18, Forvis, 20, CLA, 23, RSM, 19, Crow, 19, and Cherry Beckert, 23. Are we good to go? All right. Next one. This was the easiest one, very little deviation on my part. So I'll give it to you what I got, and then we can go around the room. I have 23 for Carr, Forvis 25, CLA 25, RSM 24, Crow 24, and Cherry Beckard 25. I think a lot of times when you get into this, if they're the 6 people that provided the responses, they've probably done audits in their life, and therefore they kind of know what you got to go through to do an audit. So that's how come I scored them so high. So next. Go ahead, Craig, you can go next.
I'm actually right in line with you.
Okay, all right. Anybody down there? Give your-
Sorry. I had CRI 20, Forvis 24, CLA 20, RSM 23, Crow 18, Cherry 20.
Okay.
Okay,
I apologize. Can you repeat your first 3 again?
Oh, I'm sorry. CRI 20, Forvis 24, CLA 20.
Okay, sorry, and I did miss RSM as well.
23.
Thank you.
And I'll read the other ones just make sure we're on the same page. Crow 18, Cherry 20.
I don't know. After looking at the work AJ did, I might want to change some of these, but I have CRI at 25, Forvis Mazars at 25, Clifton Larson at 22. And I'm look more at what's more current as opposed to past. RSM, I gave 25, and Crow 22, and Cherry Becker 25.
I have Car Rigs at 23, Forvis at 24, CLA at 25, RSM at 24, Crow at 23, and Cherry Becker at 24.
You said 24 for Cherry Becker, correct?
Your turn. Craig had the same as me.
I had
Oh, Bob.
Carr at 23, Forvis 24, CLA 25, RSM 23, Crow 24, Cherry 25.
We won't worry about. Yeah, it's okay. So based on your scoring,
Based on our scoring, I only hear David pretty much was an outlier, so if we don't, I got a couple 18s and 20s in there that some others didn't have, so Carr being 23, somebody's got an exception with that, I'm sure. Do you want Carr to be a 23 or you want him to be something else? Let's talk about why. Or if you're okay with it, we'll make him a 23. Because I did hear some 20s and some 18s and stuff, so. Okay, hearing none. Okay, Forvis had 25, but there was some that were significantly less than 25. So who wants to make a recommendation that Forvis should be different than 25? $24, okay. We can make them 24, because then I had some on the, some others that didn't say 25, so. And CLA, I had 25, but I did hear somebody say a 20, so.
did we have a consensus on the 24 for Forvis?
So far. Until
Yes. Okay, thank you.
CLA, I had 25 and some others had higher, but I heard a 20, so do we want to give them less than a 25?
My issue with CLA was more, I guess, where I felt like the engagement was going to be managed from. It did not seem like there was a huge Tampa presence. That the Tampa leadership component actually seemed to have no government audit experience. And then closer to that, they did have one gentleman out of Lakeland, but in their proposal, they actually online it actually shows he's out of Orlando. So part of it was I thought it was going to be managed through the broader company and not so much of a local presence. And I also just had a hard time following who was in charge and who was kind of the organizational structure for it. So that was part of my rationale.
So for me, I saw that they were in Tampa, and then I saw that they had several different, like St. Petersburg, Lakeland, Orlando, Sebring, all these different, and they had 2 or 3 out of each location. I don't know how you do remote auditing at all. Do they do a lot of remote? Because to me, I don't care where they live as long as they're getting the audit done necessarily, but I'm not sure how that works with Hillsborough County. Do you need the presence in the office?
Some presence is good, but most auditors do a lot of remote testing.
So is that an issue that they don't have as much Tampa presence as they do others?
Tampa presence is preferred in case some
Right.
in-person meeting is needed. Sometimes for audit issues, it's good to talk to them in person instead
Yes.
of on Teams.
So to accommodate the other vote, we could make them a 23 or 24 if anybody wants to make a recommendation to accommodate David, because that's a good point, David. Yes.
I have a question, but those points that you're discussing, isn't that not related to this category? Am I not reading it correctly? The presence, whether they're in Tampa or not.
That was approach and methodology. Is that what you're saying?
No, we're under experience with similar local governments,
But you're
right?
saying, does the fact that they don't have an office here follow
Is
this
irrelevant
It's
for
irrelevant
this
to this section?
category, right? Sakina?
Would be dependent
Right.
on, yes, the importance of that in that category.
Yeah, I'm guess I'm curious if, well, I don't know how I was gonna land that sentence, so I'll pause it there.
If you're talking about local presence, you did have that discussed in your approach and methodology.
All right, I will defer to the group on that rating then.
Yeah, I had them scored a little lower than, actually I had them scored at 22. With the note that their past experience in Florida is strong. I just didn't see a lot of more recent activity. And again, I don't know that that is how much weight that carries. I noted that they're doing Lee County, Collier, and Polk. So as long as that's not a concern, that most of their strong experiences in the past, and again, I don't know how far in the past that goes. I know they're big, they're well known, so I'm okay with 25.
Okay. All right. Consensus on 25? All right, RSM. 24, 23, what are you thinking? 20? Go ahead. What do you want to give them?
I scored him a 24, so.
Okay, that's
but
what
I'm-
I had.
But I'm flexible as well.
Anybody else want to dispute 24? Okay,
Y-
you do.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Just for your information, they list references, RSM lists references such as Palm Beach County, but the last time they were there was fiscal year 23. Pinellas County is listed as a reference, but they were before 2019. So it's not as favorable as it looks.
So when I was looking at this category, I was looking at their experience in the single audit world and completing on time and testing and field work and the volume of previously awarded is kind of the area I was looking at, but maybe I was in the wrong category. 6.16, experience with local governments. But, all right, so you want to make it 23, 22? Who has a vote on that? For RSM, you want to make them lower? $23? All right, we'll go down 1 to 23. Crow? Anybody got something different than 24?
One extra comment. For Crow, their experience with Broward was prior to fiscal year 19. And Pinellas County was fiscal year 22 and not after that.
All right. So we should lower them by 1 point.
Again, taking all of that into consideration with all of the other review that was done as well.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so we'll make them a 23, down 1 point. And then Cherry Beckert, the question is, you want to make them 25? Everybody good with that? All right, I'm losing you guys.
Give
You can-
me your final consensus on Crow, confirming one
Oh.
more time.
Let me go through the whole list and tell me if you disagree. Carr is 23, Forvis is 24, CLA is 25, RSM is 23, Crow is 23, and Cherry Beckert is 25. Okay.
I hate to be the stickler. on
Yes.
this. The
That's
voice
okay.
of dissent. When I look at it, I know I said it was okay with 25 for CLA, but compared to Forvis Mazars, now I know they kind of took over MSL, but they're doing a lot of stuff that's current. Clifton Larson, to me, is a little bit in the same boat as Crow in that their big government or their most experience with governments, most like Hillsborough, seems to be more past related than it is current. And now, certainly they've had a lot of experience in Florida, as does Forvis Mazars, but Forvis is more current than Clifton Larson or Crow. Cherry Beckert, I'm sorry, what was Cherry Beckert's score?
25.
20, okay, I agree with that. That's just some food for thought. And I don't know, AJ, if you have any more information about the current activity, past activity between Forvis and CLA. But that was what I was able to glean from looking at their material.
Right. And based on what he presented, and what you guys already have, we need to be mindful, we're in the scoring phase and technical advisors are only technical advisors. So it
Right.
really is the committee that needs to make
Right.
this consensus scoring.
Okay.
And I put bonus on Forvis for the Pinellas County transition, which I think relates to the local governments of similar type, structure, and scale, although I know Pinellas may not be as big as Hillsborough, but the fact that they had that the experience with transitioning just recently with a large county, maybe not as big as Hillsborough, but they also have some big municipalities, Tampa and Orlando.
Okay, so the only one in question for you, Jim, is CLA at 25.
Yes, I wouldn't make them higher than Forvis Mazars in this category.
So everybody tell me what you want. Do you want a 24 or a 25? 24? Okay. So one more time, we have 23 for Carr, 24 for Forvis, 24 for CLA, 23 for RSM, 23 for Crow, and 25 for Cherry Beckert. Okay, the question becomes, are you good to keep going?
Mhm.
All right. So proposers organization, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm way off base here. So I'm starting out. I have 15 for Carr, 18 for Forbes.
To repeat the full criteria, it's the proposer's organization experience with audits involving similar ERP systems and
Yes.
other complex accounting systems. So we're on category 3.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so I 15 for Carr, 18 for Forbes, CLA is 20, RSM is 19, Crow 17, and Cherry Becker 20. So next on the list, anybody want to tell me their scores? Go ahead, Mary, go for it. Not there yet, okay? Yeah, I thought it was good that you mentioned that they all have Oracle experience. So that was helpful to know.
Yeah, I noted that. It seemed like everybody had Oracle experience. I'm sorry. I gave CLA okay. I gave everybody a 20 except CLA. I gave 16. I'm not anti-CLA, but in CLAs, they lacked any specifics. All the other ones I thought had specific work they had done with Oracle, but CLA, I had a hard time finding. They mentioned they had experience with it and expertise, but nothing specific.
In this particular category, it wasn't just the experience with ERP systems. You also had to know how many key individuals did they have working on the ERP system that know it? What about feedback to the county? Do they know Oracle enough to give the county some tips on what they could improve on? And what kind of references did we have from the others is another area that I saw in that section. And yeah, that's it. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I had Cars 19, Forbes 20, CLA 19, RSM 18, Crow 18, Cherry Becker 19.
I had Carr at 19, Forbes 19, CLA 20, RSM 18, Crow 18, Cherry Becker 19.
You're very similar.
Very-
I had CRI 18, Forbes 18, CLA 20, RSM 18, Crow 16, Cherry 18.
I had Carr at 17, Forbes at 18, CLA at 19, RSM at 18, Crow at 18, and Cherry Becker at 19.
Okay. I think yours was the most. Tell me what yours were again. I think yours were about average. 18,
19,
19.
19, 19, 20, 18, 18, 19.
Okay, so how are you with Carr at 18? Is that reasonable? Forbes at 19? Is that reasonable? CLA at 20? RSM at 18? And Crow, I had 18 or 17. I didn't know which way to go. So is 18 okay? Okay. and Cherry Beckert at 19. All right, now it's open to the committee. What do you, anybody, any comments on that? I can read it one more time. I'll go across the way. Carr, 18, Forvis, 19, CLA, 20, RSM, 18, Crow, 18, and Cherry Beckert, 19. Go ahead.
One of the reasons I scored Forvis at 20 was because of their other experience with different or similar ERPs and tools for auditing. You'll notice that some of these people didn't fill out anything in those additional areas that they had. And that's why I dropped the other scores, but I thought I was pretty solid on that 20.
Okay. Anybody dispute making Forvis a 20 for their technology?
I don't know if this falls under ERP necessarily, but I actually, I'll hold off on this because I have it under the next category.
Okay.
No.
19 or 20, going once? 20. All right, we'll go to 20 for Forvis. For procurement, here we, Carr Riggs is 18, Forvis is 20, CLA 20, RSM 18, Crow 18, and Cherry Beckert 19. Okay, next category. I don't want to go first on this one because some of them I ranked pretty low, so I let somebody else go first on this one. I guess because I had some that didn't really have GASB experience. Some of them didn't have degrees, a lot of them didn't have county, and so that's where I kind of was coming from. I was doing pluses and minuses, so.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I had CRI at 19, Forvis at 20, CLA 18, RSM 17, Crow 17, Cherry Beckert 20.
Just want to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Carr 19, Forvis 19, CLA 19, RSM 17, Crow 15, Cherry 19.
Okay.
I have CRI 18, Forvis Mazars 20, which this is where I wanted to add that I noted they use Suralink, and that is something RSM uses right now with the county. I think that's a plus, a bonus, because it's for staff, uploading, and that staff that has to do a lot of the work in uploading documents, and it would just be an easier transition, I think. But CLA, I also gave 20, RSM 20, Crow 18, Cherry Beckert 20.
I was CRI 18, Forvis 19, CLA 17, RSM 17, Crow 15, Cherry 19.
One more time.
Angle this better. CRI 18, Forvis 19, CLA 17, RSM 17, Crow 15, Cherry 19.
Carr 19, Forvis 19, CLA 19, RSM 18, Crow 17, and Cherry Beckert 19.
I'm telling you, mine are really low. I have 10, 13, 17, 17, 11, and 18. So part of my reasoning was some of the qualifications that I saw under some of the degrees and things like that. I just did things mathematically, but I'm okay with going with the group. I do think Carr might be a little bit high and Crow might be a little bit high, so I'd probably lean towards the 18 for Carr. And I'd lean towards the 19. I'd rather it be lower than that, but I'll lean towards the 19 for Forbes. I'm okay with the 8. Well, it looks like 19 might even be CLA. We have two 19s, 120, 18, and a 17. So, and then RSM at 17, maybe 18, we could go there. And then Crow, more along the 17 or 15, got a couple votes. So I'll go 16 there. And Cherry Beckert, we had 19 was the average. So let me know if you disagree with what we kind of had. Carr is 18, Forvis is 19, CLA 19, RSM 18, Crow 16, and Cherry Beckert 19. So we're open for discussion. 19. RSM was 18.
Am I correct that CLA didn't list any Gatsby experience there?
Yes, that's correct.
And that was one of the reasons that I knocked it down a little bit too.
Okay. I can make them an 18. Anybody agree? Disagree, I should say.
Can you read across again
Sure.
what we think we have?
What we think we have, Carr at 18, Forvis at 19, CLA at 18, RSM 18, Crow 16, and Cherry Beckert 19.
I'm good with that.
All right. Now we need procurement to put in their magic cost numbers. Unless there's anything else we need to discuss at this point.
Excuse me, Ajay, where are the restrooms at?
Oh, just outside. Yeah, it's right out there.
I can go ahead and put the mute on and we can take a pause for a restroom break.
Yeah, and then that give you time to calculate?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Espresso.
Okay, we are back on. I do believe we got everybody back. So we should be good there. Okay, just to do a quick follow-up with the committee, just to make sure that you are aware of where we are now and where we are with our options. So right now we have the option of going on ahead and finalizing consensus scoring. I'll give you those totals, which I do have calculated, do the cost and the bonus points and the deduction. We also have the option, if you feel you have some unanswered questions, of considering before we finalize scoring, having those oral presentations if you felt the need to bring in all 6, or we have an option of you guys could also look at we score and do a short list and bring in as well if you feel like you need to maybe bring in the top 3 or 4. So we do have a couple of options there. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So does everybody feel the need to bring in all 6 for any kind of discussions on the committee at this point, or you feel comfortable with where you are on your scoring? Or
I'm comfortable with the scoring. They've responded to the RFP and given us their responses, so I'm comfortable with that.
okay. All right, so if you do feel after we've gone through all the scores and I give you the final totals, if you do feel that we need to do like a top 3 or 4, then you guys can just make that decision once we go ahead and present the rest of the scores. Just to confirm the scoring that I do have with the committee, so I'll need to get a consensus one more time to make sure these are confirmed. For Carr, Riggs, and Ingram LLC, I have for criteria 1, approach and methodology, 18. Criteria 2, the proposer's organizational experience with local governments of similar sizes, type, structure, and scale, 23. For category 3, proposer's organizational experience with audits involving ERP systems and other accounting systems, 18. And category 4 is the proposer's organization, general qualifications, and relevant experience, an 18. Is everybody in agreement? Okay, that total score on the first 4 categories was a 77. For Forvis Mars, I have a total score for approach and methodology of 20. Category 2, proposer's organizational experience with local governments at 24. Category 3, the experience with audits involving similar systems, 20. And category 4, their general qualifications and experience, 19. Everybody in agreement? Okay, for a total score of 83. I have with CLA, approach and methodology, category 1 at 23. Category 2, the experience in local governments and similar types and structure at 24. Category 3 at 20. And category 4 at 18. Everybody in agreement? Okay. For RSM, I'm sorry, total was 85. For RSM, approach and methodology, category 1 was 19. Experience with local governments, category 2 was 23. Experience with audits for ERP systems and other systems, 18. And experience in general qualifications at 18 for category 4, for a total score of 78. Is everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Thank you. Then for Crow LLP, category 1, approach and methodology at 19. Category 2, the organization's experience with local governments at 23. Category 3, the experience with audits involving ERP systems and other systems, 18. And the general qualifications and relevant experience at 16, with a total score of 76. Is everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. And then for Cherry Beckert, I have the approach and methodology at 23. The category 2, the organization experience with local governments at 25. The organization's experience with audits of similar ERP systems at 19. And the general qualifications and relevant experience at 19, for a total score of 86. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. So adding in the total cost scores based on 10 points available, I have Carr, Riggs, and Ingram LLC with a score of 9.82. Orvis Mars LLP with a score of 9.35. Clifton Larson Allen with a score of 10. RSM US with a score of 7.67. Crow LLP with a score of 8.85. And Cherry Beckert with a score of 9.27. We have DM, DWBE bonus points that were reviewed by our Economic Development Department. We had 3 firms that did present requests for the bonus points, and those firms were Forvis Mars LLP, RSM US LLP, and Cherry Beckert LLP. And the points that were given were 5, 5, and 5. And then that last incumbent staff deduction, which was presented by Ajay earlier, we have RSM with the staff deduction applied of -5.
Excuse me,
Yes.
we go back, what was the 3 that got the bonus points?
The bonus points for DWBE were Forvis, Mazars, sorry, RSM, and Cherry Beckert.
Thank you.
And they all 3 received the 5 bonus points. And then the 1 staff incumbent deduction was with RSM for the -5. So I have total scores, Carr, Riggs, and Ingram LLC at 86.82. Forvis Mazars LLP at 97.35. CLA at 95. RSM US at 85.67. Crow LLP at 84.85. And Cherry Beckert LLP at 100.27. Does anybody have any questions on those scorings?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So Crow, in their response, they said they would charge extra for single audit programs, major programs. So did you did it without that extra charge?
Currently, it's done without. It can be calculated either way. It would be a little over a point difference if that needed to be calculated differently.
It won't affect it because they're the lowest anyway in total points. When you gave us total points, they were the lowest anyway, so it won't, I don't think it's going to affect our ranking. Not from my perspective,
All right.
but that's a good point, but.
Right.
So at the way you've presented it, it looks like Cherry Beckert would be ranked number 1, Forvis number 2, and Clifton Larson Allen would be number 3, would be our top 3 ranked if we were presenting this to the board as of right now, based on scoring. So
Based on scoring only, correct.
scoring
Your top
only.
3 are Forvis, CLA, and Cherry Beckert. Not in order.
Yeah, Cherry
this point,
Beckert
but-
first, Forvis second, CLA third. So the
Correct.
question becomes, do we want to do any,
I
go
have a
ahead.
question I want to fire back at Ajay here. We talked earlier in the approach and methodology about Forvis with their estimate of the 3,000 hours. Is that something that will be able to be negotiated if they're selected, or how would that work?
They did submit their quote. I'm assuming it's not negotiated.
They did submit their price based on the per year costs and the hours that were presented. It would be something that you guys would need to clarify before you make a recommendation if you feel you need to clarify that. I mean, we have no way of proving whether they can or can't do that. So it would be a question if you feel you need that clarification, we can do oral presentations if we feel we need to make that clarification.
I have a concern with that. I mean, obviously from what you all have voiced. And that was why I'd asked the question earlier, was there someplace they could have learned that the previous hours and they didn't ask the question was the only response to that. So I do have a large concern with that.
I have a concern as well. It is a big deal to drop an auditor once you have them. The bond market doesn't like that. So once you have them, you're stuck with them. Then we'd be forced to give them more money if they can't handle it.
I guess my question to the committee here is that a poison pill, or how would we handle that?
So one of the things we could do is can we go back and review our ranking again and our scoring, or is our scoring done?
We are still here together, so if you do need to revisit,
So if we want to deduct more points in one of our categories for the fact that they can only do 3,000 hours, we can do that.
but again, we would need to consider clarifying that with them.
Okay.
They did present that they can do this with that number of hours at that cost.
Okay.
Just
Then-
looking at comparing how they rank on cost, each of the top three in the number and the hours. Like Clifton Larson said 4.15, well, 4,150 hours. And if I wrote this down right, they got a 10 on the cost. And Cherry Beckert gave 3.7 hours, which is still reasonable, and gave got 9.27 on the cost. And Forbes Mazars is 9.35, and yet, but they're way down on the number of hours. So that's just something to kind of to consider. It looks like Clifton Larson is at least they're 5 points below Cherry Beckert, but they do seem to have they're good on the cost with the 10 and more hours than Cherry Beckert at 3,700 hours.
So-
Just for consideration. And Forbes was the only one that had, of the top three, that even had a red unfavorable mark.
Question about the 3,000 hours. You know, we know you quoted 3,000 hours. Are you sure?
But if we ask one, it would be only fair to ask them all if they want to clarify their hours, since none of them, I mean, it doesn't seem fair to re-ask only one of them.
Could we take the top three and ask them to clarify the hours, or do we have to do it for all?
No, you don't have to do it for all.
Okay.
What I would recommend though, since your recommendation to the board has to be your top ranked three, if you're going to bring them in for clarification and oral presentations, you may want to consider doing the top four rather than, having some concerns and going back to another one to ask. Just a suggestion, but that is again up to the committee. If you prefer to just bring in those top three ranked, we can schedule to do that.
It seems more of a staffing question than a cost question to me. If they've said they're going to do this for a fixed cost, and I mean, and they're not the lowest cost, so the math should, in theory, work out between these firms, unless there's just entirely different hour expectations, hourly charge expectations, but I'd be more concerned if they were the lowest cost and also the lowest hour. I feel like they have room, that this is a fixed fee setup, as long as, I mean, to me, the point of clarification is more on, this is gonna require more hours than you estimated. Are you staffed accordingly for that?
Didn't they just finished doing Pinellas County? Is that correct?
That's what I read, that they did Pinellas County.
Do we have any way to ascertain the number of hours that they had over there? Realizing that Pinellas is smaller, I know.
I'm sorry, say that again. I thought you were asking Ajay something.
I'm asking if there's any way we can determine what the number of hours were for the 2024 audit in Pinellas County that Forvis did.
I could call them and ask, I could call Pinellas County and ask them how many hours they took for the last fiscal year.
Ajay, this is Christy again. Just was there a reference to Pinellas County for that firm? Because within our references or questions, there was a question that stated something like, was there additional costs that were not taken in consideration? There was a question that should have been answered.
Yep. Pinellas was a reference for Forvis.
So one of the questions is, was there like additional charges or something of that?
And the only way to do any more clarification with what they presented would be to bring those questions in a presentation, oral presentation setting, so that we can ask those questions and get clarification on those hours.
Well, I think what Christy is saying is that in our reference questions, there was a specific question addressing this. So I think her question is, how did the Pinellas County reference reply to that question?
Yeah, they
Yes.
said no additional costs.
No additional cost.
Right.
Oh,
But we don't know how many hours they had. Just a comment, for CLA, they budgeted 4,150 hours. And so it's better to have more hours than to have fewer hours. At least we know they can do it.
Other than reevaluating our scores again, then the other option would be to bring them in, bring 4 of them in to ask that question to, or to present that question to. I don't know who I'm asking here.
Let
Yes.
them bring in clarifications, they can do an oral presentation and you can follow that with questions.
Or we could also, though, readdress our scoring.
You can readdress your scoring based on the criteria that are set forth if you need to reevaluate the approach and methodology or any of those, if we need to do some clarification. But we really, at this point, because we've had some consensus here and we've announced all the rest of the scoring, it would be better to do this in a presentation format so that you can follow up with those questions.
Thank you.
And since we're speaking about Forvis, I just have a question on the procurement proposal review. There are some deviations noted on your review.
Correct.
Could you speak to that so I can understand it a little bit better?
The deviations were reviewed based on the what's in the RFP proposal. So we have some standard language that is used and approved through the county attorney's office. The deviations are specifically what I presented in the package that I gave you guys. I will give you one additional note that we did want to clarify Crow's liability. I don't know if I clarified it well, the court-related costs, they were talking about only getting, we would only get reimbursed for fees paid to them. So I just wanted to make sure that was brought up. But also that we've got some deviations based on insurance requirements, indemnification, which is a big deal with the county attorney's office. Ajay, I believe, also put that in his notes. He's got some notes in his presentation about those deviations that may not be able to be negotiated. So there is always that possibility that negotiations may not get completed, and we do have to move on to another recommendation. But that's pretty much what we're looking at. There was some indemnification concerns, some other concerns with the third-party agreements and limitations on liability. Those are kind of, pretty important when it comes to the county attorney's general guidelines and stuff. But again, it's not something that can't necessarily be negotiated. It would just be determined based on the time of negotiation, but yes.
So I agree that Forvis, CLA, and Cherry Beckert are our top three. If we bring those three in, we can still rank them 1, 2, and 3, but we can change our rankings based on interview. Would that be correct?
Yeah, if
Right,
you.
'cause right now
If
we're
you get
going-
clarification and you need to reevaluate your ranking and scoring, yes, you can make adjustments if clarification warrants that.
Because I don't see any need to bring in 4. I think those are our top 3. But if you guys want to bring in 4, we can. And then what, is they only answering the question on audit approach and how they get it done in the number of hours? Is that the only question we have of them? Are we giving them 10 minutes to do a presentation, or what would it be? What would that look like?
Oral presentations would be them giving a presentation. Typically, we do 30-minute presentation and 10 to 15 minutes for questions. If you have any additional questions besides that.
So we can't just ask for a specific area that we want them to present on.
I think we could, couldn't we?
For the oral presentations, they would present all of the information based on their proposal submitted, and then you would ask your questions at the end of it. They still have a presentation.
But do we need a whole presentation on what they already wrote on paper? That's my thinking. Can we narrow the scope of what their presentation can be? I know that's typical, but I don't want to waste our times either, the committee's time.
Hang on one second. I'm trying to get confirmation.
Because I also, okay, hold on.
Okay, so I got clarification from Scott that said if it is just the hours that we are concerned with, that we can follow up and ask them for that clarification.
Just through an email like that, or you guys will follow up and then you'll report back to us.
We would follow up and report
Okay.
back
All right.
from Forvis,
Yeah, that's
since that is the one that you have a question on.
we don't need what?
And we don't need to bring them in for a presentation.
Right.
You're just going to
Yes.
email them the question and bring us back the answer. Is that what I'm understanding?
We would ask them to confirm that those hours are accurate. And if they confirm, then we would proceed with the recommendation.
If they confirm that it's 3,000 hours, I don't know that we want them to be number 2. We might want them to be number 3. Or 4.
Yes, as of right now, based on the scoring, we do have them as second in the ranking. They're still typing. Give me one more second.
Are we able to ask that as a lead question, kind of indicating what the actual hours were, and it's just given that knowledge is $3,000 or
We
3,000
can't allow them to change their proposal, but we can ask for clarification on how they came up, that we can confirm those hours with them.
So,
That is sorry, I have
I'll
somebody.
tell you, if the concern is that the hours are insufficient to get the job done, and then they're potentially then going to use more hours and charge us more for that, could you not write that into a contract that if they go over, that's on them, some kind of a clawback type provision? I mean, if they've underestimated, that's on.
I mean, they're either saying they can or they can't based on the proposal that they gave.
That's the nature of the
As
question.
far as negotiating that, give me 1 second. I'm getting clarification real fast.
Yeah, with auditors, they have to spend the hours they need to come up with their opinion. And if we say you can't do it and you have to do it in 3,000 hours, they could say they're not independent because we're using money to make them less independent than they should be. So, they could claim that they either have to drop out or they have to get the additional fees.
And if they say that they cannot do this in those hours, given if they confirm that that is not what they meant, then we would have to make some determinations in procurement about how to proceed from there.
But it's all a moot point if Cherry Becker takes the contract. If we recommend them as number one and the commission goes, the Board of County Commissioners goes with Cherry Becker.
Yes.
We're only concerned if they don't reach an agreement and then we have to go to number two. Or, like Craig said, we can change our scoring and they can be number three. Then we would be 3 down the ranking.
Mhm.
Or 4, yeah. Can we take a vote to change the scoring or you want to wait for the answer?
At this point, not really appropriate to
Okay.
change scoring. So if you want to go ahead and have the orals, we'll schedule that. If not, we can go with the scoring and we can talk with, have you prepare the recommendation for the board.
Look.
And then we can go from there. Yes.
So why is it not appropriate to change the score based on deliberation here?
Well, because we did have the discussion and everything, and we did come up with a final consensus score. So without actually bringing them in and requesting clarification at this point, we are looking at the possibility of I mean, we can't support doing that without bringing in clarification and procurement. I mean, we may be opening ourselves up to possible.
But we also
protest
brought up
already.
additional information. We delved farther into this after it became apparent that that might be an issue. So we've brought it back to the table as far as I'm concerned. So even with that, we can't go back in and reevaluate our scoring. We're still in the same meeting.
Yes.
And I would also say, I mean, it really came to the fore after we then heard from procurement, the cost scoring, that's what really, then we started talking about cost versus the number of hours. So it was after we had worked on the consensus.
Correct. Cost scoring came in after.
That's when and I think that's when we really started to delve into the whole 3,000 hours, and it was mentioned, Jay, as a concern early on, but we really didn't talk about it fully during the other portions of the scoring. So from that standpoint, it is sort of additional information that we can kind of hold our hat on, not be worried about a challenge.
I am having Scott weigh in on this one just to make sure that I'm not giving you bad direction. So give us just 1 second. We're going to try to get him in to weigh in.
Yeah, if CLA and Forvis were switched, it would probably be a good result. In case, for some reason, Cherry Becker isn't selected, we would have an adequate number 2.
And to that end, the 5 bonus points are what made the difference there as well.
Exactly. That's
Not
what
for the
makes
5
a
bonus
difference.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
I would say it's a bit unsettling too, to know that they can come back. And
Yeah.
I guess my experience with external auditors, it doesn't work that way. So I'm really surprised. And it just, like I said, it's just unsettling to know that's how it could work out, you know, and put you in a bad position.
Yeah.
Per the RFP itself, I mean, maybe reality slips in at some point and this isn't the case, but price offered for each engagement year must be fixed, lump sum, all inclusive. No additional compensation for the specified services will be provided beyond the price offered. So they are locked in at that price. So again, to me, it's more either can you execute at 3,000 hours or can you commit to offering more hours to complete the engagement.
We have in person.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for stepping in.
When I say happy.
Okay. What's the question now? I think I know, but I'll let you.
We have additional information regarding Forvis Mazars, regarding the number of hours and concern that they can get the job done within the amount. Can we go back and look at our scoring and reduce their points based on that? Can we do that right now?
You definitely can rescore if you want to. You can go back. It's within this context here. The only thing I would caution you is there just really should be good basis for that. Even though they may be lower hours. I forget what the spread was.
The spread was 3,000 hours for them versus 4,100, 3,700, 3,800 for the others.
Okay. So they're shy 500 hours, 700 hours.
Yeah, and so can they get the work done?
Okay. Okay. So I think you have a couple options.
And it's below what the current auditor hours.
Were. Okay. And Ajay, you oversee that and you think that's an accurate representation that somebody could not do it
Right.
differently
Right.
or better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the committee is just is taking a finding that your finding is really unreasonable that they could get it done in those numbers of hours based on your experience and based on the experience of the committee.
Yes.
Okay. So you certainly can rescore. That's what you want to do. Absolutely. It's your judgment. Another option you have is if the firm is otherwise qualified and you want to have a question, you could either interview that firm and clarify that. You could interview the top 3 firms and clarify all of that. But if you feel like you have everything you need right now, you can decide right now. It's this committee's judgment.
If we were to bring them back in and we're basically going to ask them, you sure you can do this in 3,000 hours? And they say, well, maybe we should do 4,000. That isn't what they put in their response. So that wouldn't work.
Yep, that's right.
So there's really no place for them to go other than we stand by what we put in there.
Yep, they can't change the proposal. Yeah, there's no change in that. They'd have to just explain maybe their methodology on how are they going to do it in that number of hours and kind of explain the methodology to you.
They're not charging hourly. So I mean, if they can do it in 4,000 hours, as long as they do it for the price they quoted. I doubt anyone's going to hit their number exactly. If that's a criteria, we're going to fail.
Yeah, because it's a lump sum per year, right, on this one? Yeah. So I think what Ajay's saying and what the committee is picking up on is we understand what your flat fee is for that year. We just don't understand how you're going to get it done under that with the number of hours you're saying you're going to do it. So just if they can explain that methodology. Another option you have is, you could direct us and the clerk's office, I guess, to go back and talk to the firm and have them confirm those numbers. And if say, yes, we definitely can do it. If the committee didn't need further clarification other than that. Now, if you do want to talk to them, have them explain exactly how they're going to do that, there might be some insight there. If you direct us to go ask them the question and they affirm it, then we would proceed. If they say, well, you know what? No, we can't do it. We would probably get the committee just to say, move to number 2, and we would pick up and go to number 2.
So can we bring them in just to ask them that question about hours, or do we have to bring in all 3 to ask the questions about how they're going to do it in the number of hours they represented?
No, you could bring in just one firm if that's what you wanted to do. You could. The obligation of this committee is obviously to take the top 3 ranked to the board. You're not really making a judgment other than the ranked. If you're bringing in the one, my advice would be bringing the other 2 while you have them, because there may be questions,
Maybe
sometimes
we could
questions beget other questions. So,
Yeah, and maybe we could see, I only want them to talk about hours and methodology. I don't want them to regurgitate their whole RFP.
and
I mean, I think that's like a waste of all of our
I'm
time.
sure it is. So what we can do, and we're pretty deliberate there, based on the committee's instructions. When we send them notification, we tell them exactly that. Do not repeat your proposal. We've already read it. The committee has limited time. They just have these questions and keep it confined to this. We don't need the dog and pony show and what you've done for the community and all that stuff. It's just really pointed and very direct, to the point where there's even a sentence that said that any disregard for that instruction will not be looked upon favorably because you can't follow instructions. So we're very deliberate there.
Can we ask them that in writing, just instead of having to make a presentation?
Sure.
And I mean, Ajay, you know exactly what you're talking about with that. So, we need some help in forming the question.
I mean, if we were to ask, if it's better off to ask all 3, the top 3, give us a breakdown, detailed breakdown of how you came up with those hours, we'd be able to compare sort of apples to apples.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Scott, the real concern too is that, if that particular firm is chosen and they can't get the job done in 3,000 hours, then they come back and ask for more money.
No.
So
No.
it's
As long as everything's within the scope of that original, of what was there, they have to accomplish that. There is no
Okay.
extra.
They can default on the contract at that point, though.
Right. Which you're
That's what-
probably already so far in, that's not going to be a good thing.
That's
So,
what Ajay brought up before,
Yep.
trying to replace a
Right.
auditor in the middle of the streams.
Yep.
Difficult.
so you have a lot of options. I don't know if that helps or not.
Reputationally, it would cost them well more than 1,000 hours, if they were to go that route and blow up the contract based on them not being able to do what they said they would do.
Yeah, especially considering they've taken over MSL's assets, so it's now their name on it. That would look really bad for Forvis Mazars if that happened.
I think The organizational chart that you have, how you would, one of them did really good on telling me how much they would do for the constitutional officers, how many people it would take, what it would take to get the job done. Some of them weren't very clear on the interim audit versus the final audit. So how much detail do we want? And the question is, do we want it in a presentation, physical presentation, or do we want to call them in for a verbal presentation?
I'd prefer just to present the question to them, have them respond to it in writing. And I think between procurement and Ajay's shop, they can come up with the appropriate question on it.
So what if one consideration is their independent standard, that they have to be independent in order to give their opinion on the financial statements. So if I were to ask them a question, what if a question were asked, if you find yourself in a situation where you have to do the audit for 3,000 hours and it takes much more, would you view this as a something that affects your independence for your audit opinion?
Okay, you could ask them that question. Mhm.
And then if they say it doesn't affect it, we'll do it anyway, then it's okay.
That would be the one question, and I think the other question is, how can you get the job done in 3,000 hours? Or maybe
Yes,
not.
yes,
Maybe you don't
yes.
care about that, how they do it. Maybe you just care about the independence issue.
Mhm.
So based on their answer, we would then review our scoring?
Right. You could just pause your scoring now and just suspend it and just like it didn't happen. we go get the answers, bring them back to you, and we just convene you for a very quick meeting for you to get, of course, you get all the information sent to you, so you have it to your review, and then when you meet, it should,
Right.
then you can consider
So,
that.
To that question, I would imagine that under the evaluation criteria, that issue would come under one, correct? So we would, to make, in theory, for there to be a flip-flop between CLA and Forvis, there would be a 4-point change as a result of the one question. That's a significant
I see-
change.
I see 3. You see 4?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so it'd be 3. I'm sorry. I'm like, that's still a significant.
But if I go back to here,
You have green belt.
we upped, we lowered 1 point there, we lowered 1 point there, and we upped 1 point there. So there was our 3 points right there.
Right, but I'm saying, but in this case, under what evaluation criteria? I mean, could we really go into some of these others that, the organizational experience, does that have anything to do with whether or not they could do it in 3,000? I don't know. I mean, just saying, would we go back into all of the different sections, or we would just say that it's really, to me, it would be approach to methodology, I would think, that's.
Yes,
To
yes.
methodology, I think you could lean towards number 4 too, if you wanted to. But
Using relevant experience, I guess.
I guess, because that was kind of a catch-all.
Mhm.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. So I'm just coming into this, so I apologize. So your first rank is, under your current scoring, is Cherry Beckert is your
Yes.
top. Next one is the Forvis, and that's the one that has the hours that you're not real 100% sure. And then CLA is your number 3, and they didn't have an hour issue, neither did Cherry Beckert. Obviously, Cherry Beckert was one of our previous, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Okay, yeah, I
And
guess
the only thing
immediately
that
before
changed
this.
the ranking was your DBE,
Okay,
because those two got 5 and CLA got 0.
okay. But the final scores, that's the 1, 2, and 3? Okay, so Cherry's number with price, everything? Okay, okay. Okay. So it sounds like the 1 was pretty solid.
The bonus points are based on, I'm sorry, I probably should know that, but what are the bonus points based on?
Go ahead.
The bonus points are based on their commitment to use DWBE subcontracting. And that's a review that's done through economic development and scored.
So
I'm at a crossroads between 2 and 3. We know number 1, if we write the memo today, we know number 1.
mhm.
The crossroads is between 2 and 3. What do we recommend to the board?
Right. So because you've scored them, you have Cherry, who does not have the issue. Forvis is number 2 based on everything you have in front of you. And then CLA, you're comfortable with them as number 3. I think the committee, one option you have is you could recommend that ranking with the second as the assuming that they can do that work, assuming that the top ranked firm is likely going to get selected.
Yes.
Before we move to Forvis, when we do our write up to the board, we could say that the committee's direction is they would want to confirm before moving to that firm. Because what happens, whatever the board selects, then we would negotiate with that firm. If we can't come to an agreement, but where deviations, terms and conditions, whatever, then we would move to the second. And I think I would just ask the board to qualify that selection, that we would have to confirm that they can actually do it for those hours. Everything on paper appears that they're qualified, references must have been pretty decent. But before we go to that next step, we'll just confirm that at that step. So your rankings is there. But I still would preserve that we'd
You
want to
like
check that.
Greg, what do you think? You okay? All right.
Does that make sense?
That
Okay.
makes sense. That makes clear sense.
Okay.
Clearer than anything we've discussed so
Okay.
far.
And I, Paul, I mean, this is a tough thing if you just dabble on it every once in a while, because, we've called you all in to do this, and I know it was a lot. So, and it's a lot of information, and it's not, maybe it's just me, but it's not the most exciting information. It's not as gripping as I'd like, but yeah.
So to clarify,
Mhm.
The proposal would be to ask the board to select. But doesn't the statute say they really have to go with number one?
If what cost is, yes, they'd have to have a reason why they wouldn't go with number one if cost
Okay.
was included. Yes.
Okay, all right.
I say, that's what I mean is the chance of the board moving off your number one's probably fairly remote. But there could be something, strange things happen, but I just want to make sure I put a stop in there. That if you aren't 100%, that we need to have further discussions, but I don't want to take any more of the committee's time if it's not necessary.
That's no problem. I'm just running an election right now.
Oh,
So, yeah, I was just going to clarify. So you're going to put a stop in the language to the board about, to verify that if you go past one, that two has to be able to,
yes. And I'll preserve their position that, everything appears that they're a great firm, they're highly qualified. We just want to confirm because the hours, there was a disparity there. Maybe there are efficiencies that the committee just is not aware, but we just need to understand that before we proceed. That's all. So,
Sounds good.
okay. Well, I appreciate your patience.
Thanks, good. Sounds good. All right.
So the committee is comfortable with the scoring as is. The recommendation can be sent with the information as Scott presented with that note in there.
Yes.
And everybody's comfortable with that today?
yes, with the caveat.
With that caveat, and as long as he has the wiggle room, if they can't do it in 3,000 hours and be independent, that we will put that language in there that he can go to number 3 to negotiate.
Okay. Take that as confirmation. Is there any other questions before we leave? Okay, before I stop the recording, just to remind you that we are still in the cone of silence until a recommendation for award is completed and submitted. So we will go from there, but thank you so much.
I want to
Stay
thank the
independent
committee
for
for
now,
being
but
prepared today to talk. This was great. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for all your hard work. We really do appreciate it.